most common reported colour of the Yowie is a reddy, rusty brown, with a similar colour and hair length to an orangutan. Researchers examined the protein sequences of Gigantopithecus teeth to discover the orangutan is the closest modern relative. Giganto is said to be the largest living primate in history, standing as high as 10 to 12 feet tall. It's been bantered around for decades about Bigfoot being an extant Giganto, but frankly, I've never been a fan of the Gigantopithecus model. In 2016, surprising new fossil evidence of Giganto had been discovered as close as Indonesia, just a stone's throw away from Australia's doorstep. The current scientific thinking is that it died out about 100,000 years ago. But archaeology and paleoarchaeology facts frequently change with each new find. In many ways, it's an unstable vocation which constantly overwrites itself. Now, having recent discovery of fossils in Indonesia and knowing about the Arafura Shelf at the top end of Australia, which is the land bridge linking Australia to New Guinea and towards Indonesia, that existed up to only 7,000 years ago. It's plausible for Giganto and other species to have walked and island hopped here for millions of years, before becoming land trapped as the sea levels rose, cutting off Australia from the rest of the world. Whatever was here, stayed here. But what of sightings of white yowies in Australia? Why aren't they isolated to the alpine regions as they are in other countries? Yet another curveball. Or not. When we consider the diverse skin and hair colours of Homo sapiens, or even dogs and cats for that matter, it's perfectly natural for hominids to have the same variables, such as Snowflake, the albino gorilla caught in Equatorial Guinea in 1966, and Alba, the albino orangutan caught where? Indonesia in 2017. There's been reported sightings of white or blonde coloured yowies in Australia since 1878. Over the past 20 years or so, I've investigated Yowie reports along the line of bushland corridor between the towns of Browns Plains and Mount Cotton in southeast Queensland. On the east side of the highway, the bushland begins again at Daisy Hill. Daisy Hill has recent form, including my own close contact sighting in June of 1999. You can read about that in our AYR database. To the west side of the highway, Yowie reports have bushland corridors linking to nearly all Yowie sightings in southeast Queensland, including reports of white or blonde coloured Yowies. Let's head back to 1977 and a location linked to this bushland corridor, involving another sighting of a 7-foot blonde. It's here I'll hand you to AYR's Sarah Bignell, as I say, welcome to Karawatha.
I'm 53 now. We would have been 18. You got Karawatha State Forest just at the back of Woodridge, sort of in between Browns Plains and Woodridge. It used to be called the Flat Tracks back then. Like, it was just all bush. We used to go 4-wheel and motorbike riding up there and stuff, but we were in the 4-wheel drive that night. We seen what we're seeing, so we were up there just looking for car parts, whatever, and just 4-wheeling around. Just, you know, there was only 3 of us. There was me mate Chris and another mate Pooey and myself. We seen a scrub bull. It was just a wild cow up there, which you used to see every now and then. But we went home, and then I told my dad that we seen the cow up there. So he said, "We'll grab the 303 and go and get it." So off we went. We grabbed the 303 and the mate had a 22 semi-auto. We took them up there, and we're looking around, driving around everywhere looking for the cow. Yeah, we come down. There's a power line track that ran down from a spot used to call Mother Hill. So we come up around that and then up at this big gravel hill and then down the other side and then down to Illawina Street on this power line track. The track was either side of the power line towers or whatever. We were coming down on the left-hand one heading towards the road. There's all little shrubs and stuff in the middle. And then we thought, we'll just split round, just have a pan round with the spotlights because I had all the roof spotlights and stuff on his old 40. And just have a pan round through the sticks there before we drive right out. Yeah, as we panned around, we split through the shrubs and then panned around. This thing was standing straight there, holding down like a sapling or tree branch, but sat like bent down with one hand and sort of reaching up at it. And then we just lit it up with spotlights. And then, we stopped, it stopped, and then sort of stared at each other for a minute. And then the tree go and turned and took off. As it took off, and that's what got me with that story he sent me, like it just dropped and just bulldozed like little trees and shrubs and stuff and just gone. So, and then I tailed it, hung a screaming Yowie and took off and out on the road and gone. So pretty much it. But it was a white. You hear about reddish brown and black. This one was like a dirty white.
I've had a few white ones. Probably the more common is black and brown, but I have heard of more than a couple of the white ones.
Just gotten back in touch with my mate Chris after years of not seeing each other and talking. I finally got in touch with each other a couple of years ago. And he just asked me the other night, like we were talking on the phone, he goes, what do you recall? We did see what we seen. And then it was way too tall, way too big to be a man in a monkey suit, or didn't even look like a monkey suit. It looked hairy, but the skin parts you could see looked fairish, like not dark. It was big, like real tall and big set, like not block shaped and everything, like sort of like more like a man shape, I suppose, but big, and took off like it was fast. Like it turned, just let go of the tree or the branch that it had hold of, and that flicked up, and then it just sort of turned on the spot and then started running, and it just dropped and just kept going. This little forbing we made had no front doors on it or roof, so it was just a little open top old Daihatsu thing, and I had the 303 shoved down, at my left leg, and it had a full clip in it, and people say, why didn't you shoot it and all that sort of stuff? Well, you didn't even think about the gun, and that's what that bloke said. It was sort of freaky that he said the same thing. Like, I don't know, you just pull up, my mate just hit the brakes and it was in the spotlights and that was it. We just all sort of stared at each other. It staring at us and us staring at it, and it took off, so we took off. We sort of watched it bolt and drop and keep going, and then we just turned in the car and boom, we were out of it. Because it was a big thing, it wasn't no person. It was massive.
Did it register what it was straight away, or what was your first thought?
First thought was, Jesus. So it must have known. There was no secret us being there. We were in a four-wheel drive, spotlights blaring, coming down one track, and the other track was just to our right. So it must have just thought we were driving out. I don't know. And then we just split through the little shrubby bits in the middle, straight onto the other track, and that's when we lit it up. So it was just there. It was just, probably 50 foot away from us. We were on one side of the track. It was just off the track, just in the tree line. There's no way it didn't know we were there, and it was still doing whatever it was doing with the tree. I don't even know what it was doing. It was a tree, but it was pulling. It had the top pulled down, sort of its head level, and it had its other hand was up. I don't know whether it was picking something, breaking something. I don't know what it was doing. Just busy doing whatever it was doing.
How tall do you reckon it was?
Heaps bigger than us. One of my 5'9" or whatever I am. Mate Chris he's about the same. And just looking at it, sitting in the car, looking at it, like, I don't know, it had to be like at least 7 foot, if not bigger. It was big. It was just big.
What about across the shoulders? Did you?
Real big, like, that's what I mean. Like a lot of people say that block shape, square, heavy set, this thing was just big. To me, it looked human shaped, but big, huge arms and stuff, and huge, just big, broad, big chest, just big.
And it's tapered down to the waist?
It wasn't straight down. It had a shape about it. Big, heavy shape. I mean, muscle heavy, like big. Some people say they look like gorillas and stuff. They didn't look anything like that. They looked more human.
The shape was more human, or?
I think I was looking more at what it was doing with the tree, or its arms up sort of thing. My mate Chris, he remembers the face, like the front of it. You could see skin on the front of it, and its hands, you could see skin. That's what saying that the skin wasn't dark like you'd expect if it was monkey or something, or you'd expect dark skin. But
So did you notice if the fur was covering the whole face, or was there, you said you could see some of the skin?
But he sort of looked more at its face than anywhere else, I suppose. He said it's like it had a nose, it had like a face. So he seen that. I seen skin, and the shape and whatever it was doing with its hands sort of thing. But I was in the front passenger. He was driving, and my mate Pooey was sitting up in the back, hanging off the roll bar sort of thing. And he was looking between us, so he seen it as well. But
If you didn't see the face too much, then you didn't really notice the eyes and the mouth and the nose.
me, no. I'd seen the eyes, like it looked straight at us, but I can't remember what colour they were or how big they were. Or it was just eyes looking straight at us. I know that.
Was there an expression on the face at all? Did you get a feeling from it that it...
Yeah, probably just surprised, like just that it looked at us, we looked at it, we probably had the same look on our face. So yeah, it was just it was a shock thing. Like it was just like whatever it was doing, it just stopped and it just stared straight at us. And then I don't know, we didn't make a noise or nothing. The car was just sitting there running because as he lit it up with the spotties, he's just stopped. It's just sitting there straight in the spotlights, and then it was fairly close, sort of thing. Like it was just in the tree line, 15 foot, something like that, like 2 car lengths.
So it was about 2 car lengths away.
So he swung a Yowie pretty quick.
What about the arms? Were they long arms, or in comparison to its body, if you're comparing it to a human being's shape?
Well, that's what I mean by it sort of looked a human shape. To me, it looked all in proportion. Nothing looked sort of out of whack. Its arms didn't look too long for it or anything, but they were big, like big arms. That's the thing that got us the size. Like it was big.
Did you notice any hands?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I could see skin on the hands, like because it had. So imagine it's holding a little tree, just had the top pulled over. It was pulling it down with its right hand and reaching up with its left. And yeah, you could see skin, like there was hair there as well. But the hair, it was longish and it was matted sort of, but it wasn't real scruffy and woolly and everything. It was sort of all flowed one way, like hung down sort of thing. Like it wasn't real scruffy and messy looking or anything like that. So.
How long do you reckon the hair was?
Like longish, a good few inches long, 3 to 4 maybe inches, something like that. It wasn't matted, sticking out everywhere. It was sort of all just falling one way, but you could see it was shaggy sort of. It's all lit up in the spotlight as well, so we're just bright. When I say dirty white, it was like an off-white T-shirty sort of the colour, but a little bit dirtier, I suppose. Like I don't know, but not dirty. It was just an off-white, like a dirty white sort of colour. But I do remember its hands, yeah, like the hands, especially on its arms. I mean, like that was, and its chest, like it was.
Was it muscular?
Yeah, real big arms, big shoulders, just a big built thing and tall. People say, it's just someone mucking around, right? No, this thing was way too big to be someone in a suit, and the way it moved when it took off, it was just, no. And then a mate of mine, Kenny McGregor, he lived up on Wembley Road. They had a farm up there. I was talking about it, and they're all taking the mickey, and he went real quiet, and then he hit me up, and he goes, my dad's seen the same sort of thing. That was like at the chickens or whatever out the back, and he's gone out with a dolphin, dropped the torch, and he's legged it back inside. And that's not far away from where we were, because Illawina Street runs off Wembley Road. He believed me. He's like, well, I feel bad for me dad now, like, I don't know what his dad seen, but he said it was a big white, he called it a Yowie too, like big white Yowie, he said, was into the chickens or whatever out the back.
And it was another white one. That's interesting.
A white one, yeah, big white thing. That's what his dad said.
But the one that you saw, what shape was the head?
So its head, I wouldn't say pointy or nothing, but it was just a sort of normalish looking head, but it sort of looked like it got wider as it came down. Yeah, like it had its arms up, so its shoulders were all sort of rolled up. I couldn't tell if it had a normal neck or when it let the tree go, it just spun on the spot and started running. So,
did you get a feeling for whether it was male or female?
Well, we were calling it a him, so it sort of looked like a man, a boy or a man. Or
what about age? Did you get a feeling about whether it was a young creature or an old creature?
It didn't look old. Like it looked full grown, so I wouldn't say young. Like it looked older than us, the size it was and stuff. It didn't look old, didn't look decrepit or anything. It was pretty like solid looking. And
when it spun around and ran off, did it start running on two legs and then go onto all
two
fours?
legs, yeah. So it just sort of pivoted on the spot and started running. And then as it started running, like I don't know, half a dozen steps or whatever, like a sprint, and then just dropped. I just dropped down, boom, forward, and just kept running. And then we couldn't see it. All we could see was everything just getting crashed and smashed. Like little she oak and scrub, just small scrub. There's big trees in there too, but it didn't hit any big trees. It took out all the little scrubby stuff as it took off.
And it was Karawatha, you said?
Crown land, just council land. The Gateway motorway runs right through where Mother Hill used to be now. The Ipswich motorway, Berrinba. That's the nearest suburb I know to it. And Browns Plains, it's that sort of an area. So you got the Ipswich motorway, then you got the Gateway motorway branch that comes through and meets the Ipswich motorway, and then you can go left to go to the Gold Coast. It was pretty much in that junction there of where the three highways sort of all merge.
What did you guys say to each other after?
There was a lot, but we just couldn't believe it. We got out, we hit Illawina Street, and we just kept going, and we got up on Wembley Road. Then we started, what it was that, and rah, and it was just like far out, and we're all like, did you see this? Did you see that? And it was full on. And then got home and telling me dad and mum and my girlfriend, and they're all going, oh, yeah, nobody ever believes you. But we seen what we've seen. We know that 100%. He must have looked straight at its face, whereas I was watching what it was doing. I did look at its face, but more the whole thing I was looking at. So, yeah. We've seen what we've seen that night, so I got no doubt they're there.
Variations of pigmentation and hair colour are far-ranging in most genus and species, and not all need to be a chameleon of habitat.